Hey everyone, welcome back to the Smash Property Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking through the top regional locations to invest in 2025. So if you didn't manage to get into the market in 2024, we are very close to the end of the year, but there are still some great markets in Queensland to invest in 2025, and we're going to explain in detail which are the markets that you should be focusing on and the reasons why, plus a whole lot more in this episode. So stick around. But before we get there, Akira, tell us how you're doing.
I'm doing really well. I feel like it's a nice change in season. Everything's getting nice and luscious and green again.
Absolutely.
Which is great. I feel like there's also a seasonal change with property, of course, as well in the real estate market.
Absolutely.
A lot of people coming out of the woodworks
There's
wanting
a big
to get
shift.
into
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that with investors that we've been dealing with. A lot of people now, you know, it's the end of the year. You know, people had a lot of goals that they wanted to achieve, and now they're like, all right, let's get into gear. So, yeah, it's really
It's
good.
A good shift. It's
really
definitely a
good
good shift.
Yeah.
How's your side doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm super proud of some of the deals we've settled on recently for some clients, and we might actually share some of those as we get through the episode. And
pop some links in the description.
Yeah, I don't know what links are what, but yeah, we'll put links in there.
We get a little summary of
Yeah, no, it's definitely joking. And we're working on some pretty cracking deals at the moment for some existing clients, which are absolute rippers if we can pull them off.
I think it's one of those things. We might jump into a couple of those stories within this episode. I want to share one particular story.
Absolute crackers. But no, I'm good. We super busy, feeling good. Energy's good, so ready to get stuck into this one.
Your skin is glowing, that's for sure.
Yeah. So why do, firstly, I think the reason why we're doing this episode, context is everything, right?
Yeah.
We have been buying all over the country for a while now. And we've been speaking with a lot of different investors for a while. One of the most common themes that we get is people's budgets at the moment, considering where interest rates are. Now, our sort of strategy and buyer's agent philosophy is firstly buying houses in capital city locations. Considering where people's budgets are, that's sort of been out of reach for some people, many people actually. And so one of the other options or one of the other strategies is buying houses in regional locations, which is the kind of pillar and cornerstone of why we're doing this episode, is because this is where a lot of people can actually afford to get into the market.
Yeah, getting
without breaking the bank.
Yeah, value for money.
Exactly right. Obviously, you can buy, townhouses in the city and that sort of thing. We tend to steer clear of that where possible, based on budget. We have bought units in townhouses for some clients, etc. But the main thing is, where can people buy? Where can they afford to buy? Regional is a great location. Queensland has been very, very good, and we're going to explain some
reasons
of that. Why? So let's kind of go with why do we like regional?
Number one for me, especially with, the young investors that we have on board, is the affordability factor.
100%.
I think it's one of those things with, like you said, it's just making the decision whether you go townhouse on a city or do you get more value and go up regional and get that balance between affordability, good growth and good yield. So that's the other points. But I think number one is definitely affordability.
100%. I love the fact that we can get into the market and buy a house, freestanding house.
Under 500.
Yeah, under 500.
Way under.
If that's
anything.
Depending on the investor's risk appetite. But
yes.
That's an individual case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
So affordability is great.
Yep.
What else do we like?
I think the other thing that we spoke about is, of course, the balance of capital growth. So context, like you said, is everything. Capital growth in comparison to Brisbane, chalk and cheese. But if you're talking capital growth in compared to other, states, you've got good growth that we're seeing both from infrastructure, the market conditions as well. So I would definitely say capital growth is the second reason why I love it up there.
100%. And I think kind of balancing that out, why I like regional a lot is you have, like you said, you have that capital growth. but you also have the rental yield as well to go with it.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, the capital growth is not going to be comparable or the same as a Brisbane, for example, or other capital city locations. But the yield is going to be far greater than what you could get when you're comparing houses on a capital city location. And I love that, particularly for a lot of the investors we work with. You know, they're in that younger demographic. Cash flow is a consideration. And that's why I really like regional.
Yeah, it's the balance. And look, cash flow doesn't build a portfolio. You and I both know that. We say it time and time again, but it's understanding everybody has a different risk appetite.
Cash flow, it doesn't build a portfolio, but it helps you keep it. So
that's exactly key. So, I mean, talking about balance, I think from what I can see, it's that, you know, that holistic point of view within the whole building process of your portfolio and acquiring more and more properties. It offers you capital. Make sure you can get into the market and you can actually hold the property with the yields.
Yeah, 100%. Let's talk a bit about what makes it good, right? Like what makes it a good growth location? What makes it, what makes those why are the yields good?
Yeah.
I think it's important to provide a bit of context around that.
And look, there's probably principles here that apply everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Number one, infrastructure. So money being pumped into these different regional areas mean that, you know, we've said this before, you're going to get more jobs, more people moving into those areas. Yeah. That's a good kind of starting point to make sure, you know, that is going to be an area that keeps growing.
100%. And we'll get into, the four specific areas that we love. But for example, Mackay is one of the fastest growing regions in Queensland.
Wild. Yeah.
From a whole range of different perspectives, not least the economy that's there. It's so strong.
Yeah.
That big mine that's near there, or the coal reserve, that's near there, biggest in the world, right? And that adds a lot of money into the area, but importantly, it drives a lot of people into the area. So what makes regional good? To your point, we've got good infrastructure in all of the different centres, all through regional Queensland, right? All the major centres. The thing I love about Queensland and these regional centres is the economic diversity.
Yeah.
So it's not like Mackay's not just dependent on the mines. Yes, it's a big part of the economy, but it's not solely reliant on it, right? Just like all the other centres there, your Rockies, your Bundys, your Townsville, they're not singular. It's not a singular, economy, which I love.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you've got agriculture, you've got the coal reserves, you've got renewable energy.
100%.
Then you've got like a defense force up there. You've got a whole bunch of things that kind of make sure that people actually want to live there.
100%. And that was just the point I was going to go to. Like, yes, infrastructure is great. Yes, economy is great. But ultimately, like lifestyle, it's amazing. You know what I mean?
Beautiful
like I'm pretty
weather.
sure at some point, we're going to end up in Queensland. And we've sort of flirted with the idea for a while. But it's great. A lot of people want to live there because it's just a great lifestyle. Weather's good, comparable to the southern states some of the time. It's just a different lifestyle it's attractive for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think just maybe boiling it down, just very simple. It's the fact that it's more affordable. There's less pressure on people. You know, you've got such beautiful weather out there, so many facilities. It's less crowded. I mean,
what's not to love
about
Queensland? No, it's a great spot. Love the Goldie, love the sunny coast. Love all those regional spots in Queensland. We'll actually be up there in a few weeks' time.
3 weeks? No.
Yeah, I don't know, a couple of weeks. It's going to be pretty cool. So, always keen to get up there.
Any excuse for me, whether it's a concert, whether it's finding properties.
Yeah, actually, we got that too. Yeah, there's a few things going on. So, look, we're painting a pretty rosy picture of Queensland.
They're trying to sell it.
And the regional market. But, it doesn't come without its risks. It doesn't come without its downsides.
And I think it's important to talk about those risks and really evaluate and understand what they are, right?
No, 100%. So obviously for us living in Australia, we do get a lot of wild weather events, right? Queensland probably cops, most of the brunt of that. When you're talking about cyclones, you're talking about heavy rains, that happens a lot, especially, far north Queensland or northern Queensland. Now, why is that important for a property investor? well, obviously, you don't want to be buying a property where, it's going to be, one cyclone and the property's wiped out or one flood and the property's wiped out, right? So there are risks that you need to be aware of in those markets. Now, how do you identify those risks? How do you manage those risks?
The floods, the cyclones, those types of things. Well, they are obviously tools online. You've got a history to refer back to.
Yeah.
So we often refer to flood maps, get to understand, the local council areas, what's being done to mitigate and, future-proof those areas. So those things are important when you are actually looking to put your money down on a property.
It's obviously got risks involved. To your point, you can be looking, at flood maps, where do they expect flood levels to go to? Where has past floods gone to? The levels and that sort of thing. Obviously, buy outside of those areas.
Yeah.
I think number one. Number two, the further north you go, the more chance you have of like cyclone type of weather events. So you don't really want to be buying directly on the coastline. And if you do, you want to be buying a house that's kind of built structurally to withstand those kind of events, right?
Yeah. Quite a funny point, sorry not to derail, but it's one of those things with the houses up in Queensland. You often see them on massive piers and things like that. And you're like, it's so strange when you look at it from Sydney and compare it to those. And you're often like, they look not structurally sound for the most part, but they're built for a reason that.
Yeah, I mean, they call them Queenslanders for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But I think, we were talking about yields earlier and like how attractive the yields are and that sort of thing. And yes, they are great, but you've really got to be conscious of the costs of holding properties in specific areas. And I'll give you an example. We were buying, I think it was for one of our recent clients. And I always do an insurance check prior to presenting properties, right? To make sure that firstly, the property can be insured. Secondly, the insurance premium's not extortionate, right?
Okay, sometimes, yeah.
I was looking in a particular area and the location, like 2 streets away, one property to the next, you're talking like $3,000 difference in insurance premium.
Yeah.
Now, $3,000 is a lot of cash. And that can really flip, how that property, your net yield, right, can really impact that. And this kind of holds true for pretty much everything from like Bundy north or north of Bundy, right? Because you've got flood events, you've got weather events, all sorts of stuff going on. So if you're out there and you're looking for a property and you see a great price, you see the yield, and you see dollar signs in your eyes, like it's good, but just make sure you do your due diligence and check the insurance of that particular property.
It's so key. Like, I think a lot of people obviously see the yields online, and it's understanding your net yield. That's the key importance, so that your actual cash flow. So I think the other point is, of course, the economic cycles. We spoke about this just earlier. There is a range of economies up there.
Yep.
But of course, with that, it still means that if there is a change, say in that coal reserve for whatever reason, Mackay will be affected. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
So understanding that it is regional, it's not a city. If there is a change and a major change, it's going to affect the property market, obviously.
Absolutely. So I think like that kind of economic risk is really, any location is susceptible to that. I think you feel it less in a big capital city because it's a much more diverse economy. And to your point, places like Mackay does get impacted, and then it's more prone to that kind of boom and bust kind of cycle. Something to be aware of. Not a deal breaker for us, but I think you just want to understand what's happening in the economy around the place and area that you're buying.
It's key.
Just like, knowing what's what.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, like you said, it's not a mining town, Mackay specifically, but I think it's one of those things in understanding between Mackay, Toowoomba, Bundaberg, Rockhampton, Townsville. Where are you most comfortable with putting your money?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about some practical advice in helping investors out there find the right property. And I always say this and always talk about this, but research.
Yeah.
Right? It's
the dorky research.
Yeah. There's tons, and I mean tons of like research tools and reports and stuff available online for people to really look at. And unfortunately, or fortunately, you've really got to pay to get access to the right data or the more recent, more accurate data. Yes, there's free resources, but most likely they're kind of outdated. Data's old.
Oh, man.
You want really the latest data that you can get, and you've got to pay for it.
Can I maybe just give context to what you're saying 100%? Because say I got a bank val done just recently. What I saw online was way lower than the actual bank valuation.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's actually a really good point. One of my pet peeves, or the thing that pisses me off the most is like realestate.com would give you like an estimated value.
Yeah.
That just like couldn't be further from the freaking truth of what the property's actually valued. Like these automated valuation models, like,
they lag data.
The data's lagged. There's a bunch of assumptions built in there, and it's just not an accurate way of valuing your property. So don't use it as an estimation, but don't think, because real estate told me it's worth 470, that it's 470. It's not how things work, right? It couldn't annoy me more. Being in the industry and having that on there. I feel sorry for the sales agent sometimes with that sort of stuff. So use it as a guide, but that doesn't mean that's set in stone. That's the price.
That's right. That's right. So practical tip is, I would say, access to data.
Get access to data. Yeah. Right. You got to pay for, if you really want to take this seriously. I mean, you're literally about to spend tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Paying a couple of $100 for a report. Yeah. And looking at it and understanding it is worth it.
Can I just say, though, it's one thing to have data, but actually comprehending and understanding it, that's a whole new thing in itself, especially when you're new to it. So I think also leveraging the relationship services that are out there, property managers, BAs, real estate agents, I say this all the time, jump on the phone, speak to people, understand what's actually going there. Go there. Go to the location, walk around the street, see what's what.
I mean, that's how you really get into it.
It's not hard to book a flight and just organize a weekend.
Couple $100, make a weekend out of it.
Exactly, make it fun for yourself. So I would definitely say, in terms of research, it's one thing to have access to research, but actually understanding it is a whole new thing within itself. And it doesn't take a couple of hours. It takes weeks, months.
It does.
To decipher what, days on market. Why is that important? All right. I would say the amount of criteria that you need to look at when you're understanding the data and why it's relevant is critical to pinpoint which area is going to be, a good spot for you specifically.
100%. You're spending a lot of money. You saved most likely years to go and buy this property. Like, you want to actually...
Don't fumble the bag.
Don't fumble the bag. Spend some time to get into it. But if you don't have the time, you can't be bothered, you can't be asked, whatever, well, then outsource it, right?
Yeah.
A BA can obviously do the process for you.
Yeah. And it hasn't always been the case. Like, there were few and far between at one stage, but having someone who's competent, knowledgeable, who you can trust is pretty critical, especially when you're...
Now, I mean, more than ever, to your point, there's more BAs than there's ever been in the history in this country, right?
I don't think it's going to stop.
Yeah, well, especially with this fucking person putting out their course, every... Become a BA, leave your job. And it's like, yeah, right, okay, mate. So if you're going to use a BA, sorry, you can see there's a bit of a sore point for me. Do your DD on the BA. Have you got properties? Where are they?
You just want trust. I think it's a core element when you're making financial decisions.
Yeah, trust. I mean, for me, it's competence. I don't really give a shit about trust. No, I do. Sorry, it's competence.
Well, I mean, trust means competence for me.
I want a competent individual that I'm dealing with.
If I'm working with someone, I have to be able to trust them, and that means they're competent.
My trust forms as a component of knowing that you're competent. So
yes,
yeah.
It's like the consequence.
Yeah, I don't trust you unless you're competent. So, no, sorry, we just went on a big tangent there.
It's kind of funny.
like if you're going to outsource it, make sure you got someone who knows,
Who's batting for
knows
you,
the deal.
bottom line.
They got your back is important.
Okay, so sorry, we're waffling, but practical advice, the last one I would probably give is having someone to negotiate your deals, or you negotiating your deals as much as possible, because you are buying, there's different regional areas. Some regional areas, because they're flooded with BAs, maybe, are hotter than others.
Yeah,
so
the old BA bubble. How do you spot that? Well, you speak to Uncle Nick and I'll tell you where the BA bubbles are. No, to your point, so negotiating is obviously once you found the deal, but you've got to be able to spot value just by looking at a property. So
I want to share a story.
So like if you want to get the best deal, like you've got to be able to see value, from the jump and understand, what you need to do to the property, how much it's going to cost you, what you can get out in the back end. That's an eye. Some people have it, some people don't, but you can learn it if you don't. And
I will tell you a story. You obviously know this story, but I'm going to share a story about this. It's one of those things with property investing. There's people who are gun hard, ready to go. This particular investor I have so much respect for. Young, ambitious, got a very analytical mind when I'm speaking to them. I think the amazing thing is there was a game plan. Look, we're going to buy older property under market value. It's not going to be pretty. You're not living in it, but we're going to add value to it later on. That was the game plan for their situation based on their borrowing capacity and their overall goal. Viewed the property, a little bit of a rougher condition. It wasn't pretty in any sense, but nothing structurally concerning. So what we did, we gave them the option just to sense check, make sure, their risk appetite was there. They understood the circumstance and the situation wholeheartedly, and gave them the option of a deal that literally fit the bill, old, little bit ugly, or something closer to pushing their price point that is kind of a set and forget, has already been renovated. Someone's taken, the cherry on top and, the equity off that property. This investor was like, nah, why do I care? At the end of the day, if I'm buying market value, that means there's equity. I can put a little bit of money in what's required for the, reno, but it means I'm still coming up on top. Why wouldn't I do that? Takes a very strong-minded, person to do that, especially at that younger age, to understand this is the game plan, regardless of, the risks, understanding them, don't get me wrong, but knowing what works for them and what's going to serve the purpose in their portfolio. Yeah,
I know the investor you're talking about, like absolute weapon. But it's one of those things
Decisive too.
And that's one of the keys, and this is really actually some practical advice just on this point, right? Like not everybody is a property investor. Not everybody can be a property investor. One of the key things you've got to do is you've got to be decisive, right? You've got to decide, I want to be a property investor, number one. You've got to decide, I'm going to make a decision and get into the market and accept the risks, and I'm going to just press on forward, right? You've got that young investor absolutely ripping into it. And yet we've got other people, much older in their journey, still deciding if they want to get into the market. It's like, well, come on, like, if you want to do it, do it. Like, do you know what I mean? So and be decisive.
The thing is, like, I'm not a pushy person at all. At least I would like to think so. But this kid understood like the essence of time.
He understands the assignment.
Yes,
absolutely.
And I think with property, you've got to be able to make quick decisions, analytical decisions, and be able to direct yourself accordingly.
You do, because it's not just about buying the property. Also, during the holding phase, owning the property, you're going to have things that will come up, and you've got to be decisive in making the call, right? Do you call a plumber out to fix that leak? Yes or no, right? Are you willing to accept that cost? Do you fix the dishwasher now, or do you not do it?
Yes.
Right? Like there's going to be a lot of things. So you've got to actually train your brain to actually be good at making decisions, which
100%
is not easy for everybody. And I appreciate that. So some long-winded practical advice, but nonetheless, let's recap this. So research the property market, get access to data, pay for a couple of $100.
You don't understand it, right? Outsource.
If you don't get it, outsource it to someone. Know how to spot good value when you're looking and searching for properties. That's the ultimate way in being able to buy a deal at a good price, ultimately below market value. have a good selection criteria, right?
Yeah.
Know the infrastructure projects. Know what's kind of employment hubs and all that sort of things in the area. Even if, things like schools and all the sort of standard stuff you want to look at as well.
In those regional pockets, yeah, because they're all very different as
They
well.
are all very different. And I think above all else, some practical advice is be decisive. Like, my best approach is just eliminating stuff first. You actually, through that process, get very, very far, very, very quickly. So
very much so.
Some practical tips for property investors out there. Now, what are the LGAs that we like? There's really the top 4 for 2025. Some are bubbling at the moment, doing really well. Others, I think, will continue to do really well into 2025. Starting with number 4.
Okay.
On that list.
Hit me.
Now, being number 4 doesn't mean it's not good. They're all good.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of ranking them in what I think is going to be good for 2025. Starting number 4 is Mackay.
Yes.
I love Mackay. Great place to be. Really nice demographic. It's got a lot of money up there.
Yeah.
Mining money. really, really nice suburbs. Some really, really nice pockets in some good suburbs. There. So I really like Mackay and its growth potential in 2025 and beyond. Sitting at number 3 is Townsville.
Yeah.
Now, Townsville is a bit of a buyer's agent bubble.
But
it's
for
also
good reason.
For good reason. It's also doing really
reason.
well outside of the buyer's agent space as well. And I think Townsville will continue to do well. I don't see it being this regional center that's just going to continue to just outpace everything. I think you're going to see some good steady growth in that region for its diverse economy, etc. At number 2, I love Bundy. Right, Bundy gets a lot of flack from the demographic that's there, and I understand why. But it's got good fundamentals in terms of its economy. And it's had a great growth spurt over sort of the last 12 months. I honestly thought, a month ago that Bundy was done. But recently, we've been in the market there. It is still pumping. Stock is going on the market 1-2 days and then it's gone, right? It's a really, really tightly held market at the moment. And I can see that continuing through to 2025 and beyond.
All the market indicators show that, it's still nice and hot.
My number 1 LGA for regional Queensland, one close to our hearts, Rockhampton. It's done very, very well in the last sort of 2 years. I can see it continuing to do very well. And much like Bundy, the stock on market there or the days on market there is very, very low.
Yeah.
Getting forget about getting on market deals there.
I was just about to say
it's
that.
Almost next to impossible, right? We're lucky that we have great relationships where we do get these off markets. You picked up a beautiful one in the last week, I think it was.
Yeah.
But Rocky, I can see doing very, very well, for a very long time into the future.
Yeah, and the beauty of Rocky, what I love is there's a mix of both old and new properties. So there's a lot of room for growth, especially as an investor. You can pick up properties that are quite old that need love and get quick equity up there, which
100%,
is great.
like 100%. As always, look out for those risks that we spoke about. Every single one of those locations, generally has flood risk. Look out for that. All right. We're here for you guys and we got your backs. All right. Why is now a good time to consider regional Queensland? I think it's a good sort of point because there are lots of markets in the country. Queensland is and has been a very strong market. I see Queensland as a good market to invest right now. Number one thing is, the migration trends into the state, right? It's always had a very strong net interstate migration. That's obviously continuing. Perth has been very good as well, but this obviously is just focused on Queensland.
I think number 2, I would say, just based on where the interest rates are currently, it's that affordability that we are talking. Yeah. It's that good balance of cash flow and growth.
It's a sweet spot. It's I was going to say, it is just a really nice sweet spot at the moment.
Yeah.
Affordability, growth potential, yields, backed by good economy,
The
backed by
balance.
population migration. It just really ticks a lot of boxes right now.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. And who knows, we might call ourselves Queenslanders in a very short period of time.
Yes, I'm not opposed to that.
So what are some actionable steps? Like if you're watching this, you're like, yeah, cool, great guys, but what can I actually do to get this cranking? What can people do?
I actually started a checklist. So maybe I can share that. It's just like basically a step-by-step guide. Speak to your broker.
Love that.
It's everything all encompassed into this document. So it's basically a checklist and also a goal projection for yourself, the right questions you need to be asking yourself. So I'm happy to share that maybe for value.
Let's do that. Let's put it in the, what do you call it? In the description.
I find it so
yeah,
cringy.
I know, it's so corny. No, check the link below. Like, but anyway, we'll check the link below for this whatever she just said. The checklist. What? That's what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
SPI
love that.
checklist.
No, I know you're talking about. We got to. I love that little.
It was your idea, but I executed
Yeah, no, you just
it.
freaking stole it. Like, taking all the credit. So that checklist is actually gold. So we'll share that.
I think for new investors, I
For
feel
new
like if you're
investors.
probably a seasoned investor, maybe it's like, well, I kind of already meant
there's actually probably some value in it for seasoned investors too.
I buy property every day. I still need a checklist for due diligence,
Fucking
making
oath.
sure everything's like, organized and I'm on point.
100%.
So I think it's important to always
Having processes for everything in your life.
You're from the bank, so
Well, it's not that I'm from the bank. It's just the way my brain is wired. I'm
Your
like very
German
just like
heritage.
process. Everything is robotic now. But as always, if you need guidance on your property investing journey, feel free to reach out. Send us a DM. Catch us online somewhere. Always happy to have a chat about property and your particular journey. And hey, maybe we can actually do business together at some point in the future. But that is all for today's episode. So thanks so much for all of the insights that you shared with us today. And thanks to everyone out there for tuning in and supporting us every single week. This is, I think, our 20th episode of the SPI podcast. So thanks everybody for the support. We're almost 6 months in, which is crazy to think. And yeah, really love all the support and all the comments from you guys. So that's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, we'll catch you soon.